You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Chantelle Cameron's points decision win over Jessica Camara on the undercard of Taylor vs. Serrano 3. The fight, according to Fight Post, who I think happen to have a soft spot for Chantelle. They said, Chantelle Cameron beat Jessica Camara in New York. Chantelle Cameron might only have played a supporting role this past Friday in New York as her old rival closed out a trilogy that she firmly believed she should have had herself. But the former undisputed world super lightweight champion began her new beginning by emphatically outpointing the incredibly tough Canadian Jessica Camara over 10 good rounds at the fabled Madison Square Garden in New York. Cameron defended her WBC interim world super lightweight title, earning a wide and thoroughly deserved points decision over Camara. The three scoring officials scored it to the Nottingham fighter by scores of 99-91, 2 times, and a little closer at 98-92. I gave Camara 2 rounds, giving the Canadian the second.
Remember, this is according to Fight Post.
And 6th, but Cameron finished strong and won going away. In truth, Camara did well to see the fight out. As the contest closed out, I did wonder if the Camara corner would pull her out, as their fighter was seemingly fighting exhaustion, as Cameron was starting to break her down. But Camara bravely stayed in there, and she deserved to hear the final bell. But Cameron showed her greater class for the majority of the 10 rounds. Camara had a couple of really good moments early on, catching Cameron with some eye-catching shots with both hands. But when Cameron boxed to her strengths, she looked a level above her dogged opponent. The jab of Cameron was highly effective, and the face of Camara was starting to show the signs of a battle from around the midway point. If you want to be critical, Cameron probably made it a little harder for herself than she needed to. Keen to impress on her MVP debut, Cameron was maybe a little too eager to please at times, but overall, Cameron can be pleased with her night's work, especially when you consider her somewhat nightmare week and her extremely late arrival in New York.
Late arrival in New York. Whose fault is that?
The partnership with her new trainer, Stephen Smith, could be everything Cameron needs in the latter portion of her career. They seem to have that rare bond, and Cameron seems happy. Aligning with Jake Paul will also help Cameron get the big fights her career has been starved of. In recent times, Katie Taylor closed out her trilogy with Amanda Serrano with a 3rd straight win later on in the evening. Cameron wants Taylor again to finish their unresolved rivalry if Taylor does fight on. A 3rd fight with Cameron seems the only logical fight left for Taylor. That's according to Fight Post, who, like I said, they seem pretty sweet on Chantelle Cameron.
First, let's talk about the fight and let's talk about what we saw. Chantelle did win the fight, and she was the more dominant fighter of the two, but I felt a little underwhelmed by the performance. I did expect more, because this is the same Jessica Camara that was knocked out by a journeywoman in Carla Zamora, and this is the same Jessica Camara that was battered in just a few rounds, bloodied by Caroline Dubois, so that when she's going in there with Chantelle, I expected her to be more physically imposing. I expected her punches to be more damaging, more impactful. I was a little underwhelmed. That's just being honest.
About a Chantelle Cameron trilogy being the only logical choice for Katie, it's not exactly true. It's one of 2 or 3 logical choices for Katie, because of course, she could fight Chantelle again, do the trilogy, or she could have an all-Irish shootout with Holly Holm.
She's an MVP fighter too.
Or Alicia Baumgartner. She's an MVP fighter too. All 3 of Katie Taylor's best options fight under the same banner. So I suppose it all depends on what fight MVP decides to get behind,
and whether or not Netflix decides to put up the money, like they put up the money for this show.
For this fight this past weekend, because Katie's got options, whereas Chantelle seems focused on Katie being her only option. I've said it before. She's making Katie Taylor the centerpiece and the focal point of her entire career, and I think that's a mistake, because you're on the same side of the street as a lot of these girls. You're right there with Holly. You're right there with Alicia.
And what about moving up? What about a fight with Sandy Ryan? What about a fight with Michaela Mayer, Lauren Price?
Katie's not the only game in town. Maybe the biggest, and that much I understand. But when I heard that Chantelle was contemplating retirement after she didn't get the third Katie Taylor fight, see, I didn't like that. There's enough work to go around that you don't need to keep focusing on the same thing. It reads like a cop-out.
I understand they're 1-1 with each other, and I understand why Chantelle would want to do a third fight. I get all of that. But when you're thinking about retiring, that's like saying it's Katie Taylor or bust.
And I don't like that, least of all now that you've completely changed your decorum. You got a new trainer, you're fighting under a new banner again. There are enough options there that we can't keep coming back to Katie Taylor, who should be very close to retiring.
And if she does, what are you gonna do? Bellyache about it? The woman's close to 40.
We'll see what happens. Chantelle Cameron is an option for Katie, but she's not the only one. And who says that Katie Taylor even wants to keep fighting? People have their limits.
Yo, I seen that fight, y'all. I seen that fight. Shakur, you are ass cheeks. You are straight buns. Nigga, Floyd will wash you. Kid will wash you. And you know that now, and I see why the poison is and all that other shit. So run that excuse, oh, they gonna pull out, I need something in the contract. You scared. And you have every reason to be scared. Because Floyd got way more power than Zepeda, way more skill than Zepeda, way more angles than Zepeda, way better defense than Zepeda. I can see why you're scared, Buttercups. I can see why you're scared. Let's run it next. We both got our tune-up. We ready now, shit. We ready now, Shakur. Let's prove it. Let's prove it. You had your tune-up. Let's prove it, nigga. Oh, but nah, you gonna go run to Jay Prince, try to come with some bullshit, some smoke and mirrors. I know. I know. Just say you don't want to fight. Just say you don't want to fight. I respect that more, Buttercups, because you are a soft punching. Talk about you made an adjustment. What adjustment? You didn't knock him out. What adjustment you made, Buttercups? You were just something, Shakur. Anyway, if you avoid Kid, I understand why. Oh, y'all want to throw that Mason up to get Kid off your ass? You already know. You fooled. You, Mason, your whole squad is fooled in that ring. Y'all can't do nothing with us.
Some people view this kind of stuff as being a necessary evil in the sport of boxing. You know, you gotta talk up your fighter. You gotta build up a fight. Though because American fighters, more than many others, have a penchant for wasting people's time, and because the Schofields already wasted Shakur's, I just find this annoying.
Y'all know y'all poison my son is Saudi. Come on, Shakur.
It's nauseating. This guy doesn't get tired of the sight of his own face or the sound of his own voice. He's just itching to point a camera at himself and put something out there. Underneath it all, Senior knows that he's a con man. He's still trying to sell us on the idea that anybody poisoned his son in Saudi. Why the hell would they do that? Because of how devastating your son was looking up until that point? It's your son that has the track record for pulling out of fights. You pulled out on the Ashton Silva fight. Then you pulled out on the Stevenson fight. Word around the campfire is you also turned down an Abdullah Mason fight. Go in there with Tevin Farmer, who was already coming off of 3 consecutive losses before he fought your son. He had 8 losses overall, and because you beat him, now you got a battery in your back, you pour an extra sugar in the Kool-Aid? Get a grip, buddy. Sounds stupid.
Say you want to fight Shakur next. Okay, I don't see any obstacles or any reason that fight shouldn't happen. The fight that Shakur had this past weekend was a mandated title fight. William Zepeda was his mandatory challenger. So he's free to fight you if what you want is a fight. But what I think you want to do is play phone tag on social media.
The way American fighters often do.
According to Senior, Junior does everything better than William Zepeda. So if Shakur labored with William Zepeda, just imagine if he fights Junior.
That's his logic.
Whilst greatly lacking any situational awareness, because who out there actually believes that Floyd Jr. was poisoned in Saudi? And does anybody really believe that these guys want to fight? Now, Floyd Jr. may punch harder, punch for punch, than a William Zepeda, that in terms of single punching power, maybe Floyd has more of it. But I don't know that he has Williams' engine.
We know he doesn't have his work rate. Floyd Schofield does not throw as many punches per round as a William Zepeda.
And in terms of his engine, we don't actually know that Floyd Jr. can keep his shape as a fight progresses. If Shakur Stevenson neutralizes your offense for the first half of the fight, are you able to keep your shape in the second, or will your hands start to get heavy? Will you start taking more punishment, cleaner punches? Does your defense suffer for it?
They're not gonna fight Shakur next. Why are we wasting time on this?
If they don't, I'll make a recommendation that if they don't fight Shakur next for whatever reason, why not fight William Zepeda? You guys ain't got no reservations about fighting guys that are coming off of losses. You're a Golden Boy Promotions fighter. So is William Zepeda. Theoretically, that should make that an easy fight to make, an easy in-house fight to make. That if the Stevenson fight don't happen for whatever reason, go fight him.
You know, that's actually not a bad fight.
Schofield versus Zepeda? That's not a bad fight at all. If you guys are saying that you're ready for Shakur, then surely you're ready for a guy that he beat.
Get him, Tiger.
We had no idea that fight was going to get made tonight, right? So I said to Dalton Smith, let me introduce you to His Excellency. And he knows, we've talked about Dalton Smith. I've been pushing him, right? And then His Excellency says, yes, you are fighting the winner, and we're going to do it on November 22nd. We'll announce it in the ring after. I want a face-to-face. And we're like, blimey. And then, so the bell goes, and we know we're fighting the winner on November 22nd. And it's just who it's going to be. I thought Puello edged the fight, if I'm honest. I thought he won the last 2 rounds to just steal the fight. But fair play to Matias. He was non-stop, wasn't he? I'll tell you what, Dalton Smith against Subriel Matias, what a fight for the WBC World title. That's the breakout fight of all proportions for Dalton Smith.
You know, I didn't realize that until today, later in the day, that the fight between Dalton Smith and Subriel Matias was basically announced yesterday, a byproduct of watching fights with the sound off during a live stream. I knew that they faced off against each other. I knew that Dalton was his mandatory challenger, but I didn't know it was made, and I didn't know that Turkey was going to make it part of the November 22nd show. So things just got a whole lot better.
People want to convince you that Turkey LL Sheik is somehow bad for boxing.
Telling you that a lot of these fights that he's making would not happen without his involvement, and some of these other fights would not happen at this rate, would not happen at this speed. People these days have very low attention spans, and you could lose them in a short while. If a fight takes too long to make, or worse, it doesn't happen, people get bored, they walk away, they stop watching.
Dalton Smith versus Subriel Matias probably would have happened without Turkey's involvement, but Turkey being involved increases the likelihood of the fight happening, the speed.
Why?
Because of the money. 2 teams can spend weeks, months haggling over the financials, whereas fighting in one of Turkey's shows, you know you're getting the best money out there. Enough to satisfy almost anybody. It was enough to bring Canelo to Saudi, David Benavidez to Saudi.
Okay?
So when Turkey's involved, you know that the likelihood of a fight happening is very good. A guy who I can think of that might need Turkey LL Sheik's magic worked on his career, a guy who could use Turkey's assistance, is reigning IBF junior middleweight champion Bakhram Murtazaliev, who we haven't seen since his shock upset win over Tim Kazoo last year.
Recently spoke with Boxing News about the collapse of what was supposed to be the Josh Kelly fight. During 2024, Bakhram Murtazaliev became a world champion and then became a feared one, as consecutive knockout wins thrust the Russian into the junior middleweight spotlight. Now, upon reflection, he believes those career best wins may have hampered him. Murtazaliev, 23-0 with 17 KOs, stepped up to take on Jack Colquet for the vacant IBF junior middleweight title last April, following Jermel Charlo's decision to vacate the belt. In a grueling and close encounter, the superior cardio of Murtazaliev eventually became clear, with Colquet struggling to lift his arms, whilst his opponent threw
relentlessly and earned a stoppage win in the 11th round. Yet despite winning the title inside the distance during the period of Ramadan, no less, there was a perception that Murtazaliev could be knocked off his perch by one of the bigger names at the weight. As a result, Recently dethroned Aussie Tim Kazoo stepped up to the plate in an attempt to put an early end to Murtazaliev's reign and entered the ring as the firm favorite.
He left the ring with his career in tatters. Instead, Murtazaliev put in one of the most memorable performances of last year and floored Zoo 4 times in 3 rounds before the shocking and merciless beatdown was brought to a close. Speaking exclusively with Boxing News, Murtazaliev shared his realization that his performance has caused his opportunities to defend the title to lessen, with few contenders truly willing to face him. My new reputation is good for my career, but it is also not good because it is hard to get fights. Nobody wants to fight, and nobody wants to risk losing to me. When I barely won the title because of the circumstances with Ramadan and all of the pressure they put me under, everybody wanted to fight me. They thought that performance was it, and that was me. Now, after beating Zoo, all of a sudden, nobody wants to fight me anymore. That being said, recent reports have suggested that Murtazaliev would attempt a first defense of his world title against Sunderland's Josh Kelly on the Canelo vs. Crawford undercard. However, the 32-year-old poured cold water on those whispers, labeling Kelly and his team as jokes, and revealing that the Briton had stopped negotiating despite Murtazaliev agreeing to his side of the deal. Those people are jokes. They're calling me out, and then as soon as I say yes, I want to fight, nobody's there. They all disappear. They are big jokes. All of them. I want to fight on the Canelo undercard, but there's no opponent. There is nothing coming up. We say yes to everything, and as soon as we say yes, everybody changes their plans. He's a very good fighter. He was a good amateur. He was an Olympian. And he's a very good pro now, but we don't get why they aren't taking the fight. They just want to hype up his name with talk of a world title and then disappear. Maybe they're scared. Maybe they don't want to take a chance. If they wanted that fight could have been done anywhere. It is a big enough fight to do in America, England, Saudi, or anywhere. If they really wanted the fight, after they started the talks, they should have finished them. We said yes. There's nothing else that we can say. My manager has now told me that they are not communicating and they are not negotiating. At this point, we don't know. We did our part. 50% of the deal is done, which is us. Now the other 50% is left. At this point right now, I want to try at junior middle. There are other belts, there are other champions, and there are big fights to be made. Let's see what happens. Consequently, it seems as though Murtazaliev's chances of fighting Kelly on the Canelo vs. Crawford bill are becoming less and less, unless the pretty boy and his team have a change of heart. I myself wrestled with the idea that Josh Kelly and his team, him having suffered what he suffered at welterweight at the hands of David Evanesian, now wants to fight an even bigger version of that fighter in Bakhram Murtazaliev.
Yeah, right.
A few recommendations. Maybe he could fight Israel Madrimov, the former WBA champion. Maybe he could fight Sergey Boachuk.
He's coming off a win. That'd be a great fight. Maybe he could fight Charles Conwell. He's coming off a loss. He needs redemption.
All in all, I'm really not surprised that Team Kelly backed out of this fight. I was finding it very hard to believe they were going to go through with it. He hasn't changed so much as a fighter or racked up so many high-profile and solid victories that I am now convinced he stands a chance against Bakhram. I think Bakhram would do him like David Evanesian, but worse.